Hey everyone, welcome back to what's happening in real estate this week. I've got Conrad Zurini, broker owner of REMAX Escarpment, REMAX Niagara, and Brian Hogben, Mission 35 Mortgages. He does it better than the banks, or has better deals than the banks. We're going to talk about the new condo market sees the slowest quarter in 30 years, says new report, and the rate hold means status quo for Canada's struggling housing market. So, guys, what do you want to talk about first? The rate hold or the condo market?
Let's go with the rates. Let's go with the rates. The
All right,
rates.
we got the
I know
mortgage
Conrad
guy. The
loves talking about
mortgage
the rates now
guy.
too.
That's it. So, guys, with the quarter point hold, you know what? I don't think even if they did drop it a quarter point, it would change the market. I don't think the way it's going out there. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
There's news, and then there's what the news isn't talking about, right? The fact that they held, great. Here's a number for you: quarter point drop on a $750,000 mortgage is about $100 a month, right?
Yeah.
Over the course of 5 years, that's $6,000. One thing is just like, why are we making $6,000 decisions when you're buying a $750,000 house, first and foremost, okay? But number two, what nobody's talking about is fixed rates went up, right?
Yeah.
So now, you know what? Everybody's waiting on this Bank of Canada, drop the rate. But meanwhile, we had a whole bunch of rates around 389, 399, 379. Now you're in the fours. They all went up across the board, 0.1, 0.2. So it's like you're missing the boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When it comes down to those fixed rates, they have gone up now. So whether it goes down again in June or July, it probably will go down again, maybe. But I don't think it's the time to be waiting for it.
Well,
no, it's all about the bond. I believe that too, right? And I know people all go, they get a blank stare when you talk about the bond, but the bond's telling us how where the market sees things going down the road, right? It's your window into the future, and the market's jittery, so they had to. There was a big sell off of bonds, and now they have to offer bigger rates. So now it's going to push up long term rates for sure. Well, there was a great opportunity about 3-4 weeks ago for
do you think?
I agree. And the thing is with inflation that people got to remember too is because when there is expected inflation, right? When people think that things are going to get expensive later, that makes people spend money now. So that means that because if they think it's going to be more expensive later, I'm going to buy it now. So if that correlation flows through the marketplace, that means higher rates later, right? So we might have been at the bottom.
What do you think the election will have effect on? They'll probably do. You know what, the election. Do you think the rate hold? Or I'm surprised they didn't put it down a quarter just because of the election. You know, with the Liberal government, the way they're doing it. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a big separation between church and state there, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. So I think they're just going to wait to see what happens. And look, I like, again, we talked about it last week about, I think there's going to be, after the election, I think we're going to have some sort of an indication where things are going. And I think you'll have some sort of more calm, and people have to deal with what comes in front of them. So, and people are already doing it. Like there's a lot of strategic people buying now. We saw this big whoosh, in the last couple of weeks. We've seen like on the weekend, REMAX Escarpment and REMAX Niagara, we did 90 transactions came in on Sunday. Wow. On Monday, right? So it was pretty substantial for this time period. And it always does that. Like usually before a rate announcement, people kind of jump into it prior. And then when there's a rate decrease, they jump in 2 weeks prior. When there's a rate increase, they jump in 2 weeks later. So that's the Canadian, the Canadian buyers are playing, with the system like they always have. I think this pause is going to make people think a little twice and say, hey, like Brian said, I think we hit bottom, and let's do it. But I think this is all going to be a mindset thing. I don't think, they could drop rates to 2% or 1%. I don't think it's going to move the needle. No. I think this is more of a, what's my immediate need, and do I have to buy because I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to have a roof over my head. I'll pay my mortgage. I'll beg, borrow, and steal to pay my mortgage, but I don't want to see the banker for another 5 years, right, Brian? Right?
Yeah, on that one too. Like I've seen it twice this week now, where someone lost their job. It was a mortgage renewal, refinance, getting a better one, dragging their feet, like I'm gonna wait. And you know what? It was somebody who worked for a major college, and because of the International Student Clawback, colleges and universities, huge pruning going on there. lost their job and now they're not going to be able to get their low rate renewal refinance. So for these people on the renewal refinance, don't drag, like, I know 2% is a low rate if you got it, but if it's coming up renewal in 2, 3, 4 months, pull the trigger. You got 4 years, 9 months of an amazing rate. Pay a small, get it in there, get the certainty for the next 5 years if that's important to you. Because I've seen it twice now happen.
When they're renewing for another 5 years, there's no credit check, nothing done. They just renew. It's all clean, right? Even if you lose your job, no questions asked. They just renew.
Yeah. The only issue is if you're adding money to it, right? Which 80% of Canadians right now, when they end up having their mortgage renewal, they want to refinance, add some money, pay out some debt, or re-amortize, make the mortgage longer again, right? If it's a straight renewal, no problem.
Check. No problem. Are you telling me 80% of the people that renew their mortgages actually refinance for a larger mortgage for more?
They either refinance, add debt to it, or they re-amortize it to make their payments lower.
Right.
So if you were at a 20-year amortization and the rate went up a point or two, they might bring it to a 30-year amortization to bring those payments more in line. So over 80% of renewers are doing that.
Gotcha. Now, we know that there's a lot of, with this tariff situation that's going on now. That has scared some people, I'm assuming, especially the steel industry and whatever other industries. Do you think, I think this tariff thing is going to be over. It won't continue. It's going to settle down.
Oh no. Yeah.
It's just his way of doing it. Now, do you expect a summer or fall market to pick up because the spring market is different than what we're used to. We've had everything in the last 5 years that's not normal compared to the last 30 years. It's just, everything's just different. But with this market that we're in right now, we know that it's a good market for buyers to get in. They got breathing room to buy. They can pick the house that they want. There's inventory out there. They can wait for the right house. Not too much competition going on out there. There is competition, but not too much. But what I still feel, do you feel that the tariff situation will make the difference, or is it the election's going to make the difference for people jumping in?
I think it's going to be a combination of the two. I think people are going to, all I want is I want people to be calm, like Canadians to be calm, confident, and then consume again.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see that. I think once the election, look, again, if you study during elections, we do see this lull. We just went through 2 elections in a very short period of time. So you get this lull in sales, when there's an election, especially a federal election, there's that sign wars. We didn't have the greatest of weather, this year either. It was kind of goofball weather.
Yeah. It's
not even warm. It's going to get warmer today, so people aren't really that excited. I think don't go away this summer. I will tell you, because I think once this all settles, look, the memes that are out there when they show Obama and they show under Joe Biden the S&P index going this way, and they show in the first 100 days of Trump going down, Trump looks at those numbers, and that's pretty scary. And a lot of people are saying he's destroying the global economy.
Oh, big time.
I will tell you, I think in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, once the election's done, it'll settle down. He's going to pull back on a few things. Yeah. He's got no other choice, because the bond went up because everybody lost confidence in the U.S. So they started dumping bonds. Bond rates went up, and that's not a good sign, because he's got a big debt to renew in May. And it's people better see confidence in the U.S. again to bring the bond rates down so that he can renew that $7 trillion of debt. So all these numbers and all these things are playing into effect. Unfortunately, it's playing on the mindset and the psyche of Canadians, but it's working both ways. Like I said, we see this whoosh. We see strategic buyers coming in the market. And the other thing is we're hearing, and a good segue, and I hate to take the thunder away, but Rob, they're talking about the condos, the condo market in Toronto and the condo market here. People are hearing that, a lot of Hamilton sales and Niagara sales where people are selling their condo in Toronto and moving our way, selling it for the same amount of money. They had a little box, and now they get a house on the ground. So that's kind of put a little wrench in it a little bit. Those numbers are staggering. Right now, the months of supply, Like February months of supply for condos, like apartment style condos, was 12 months.
Wow.
March, it was 9 months. So far in April, it's 17 months
Oh my God.
of supply for condos,
Oh wow.
apartment style condos in Hamilton. Like that has got to tell you something right there. That news is coming. It's coming to roost, like everywhere, right? So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. What with people not crossing the border now? Do you think everybody's going to stay in Canada, just spend their money here? More money is going to be put here. I crossed the border. Actually, I was in Boston last week, and I had tickets to fly JetBlue from Buffalo, and I changed it. I said I'm not going to cross that border because they said they're harassing Canadians. The customs guys in the U.S. are harassing Canadians. So I just took a credit on that, and I flew out of Air Canada out of Toronto Airport because you're still on Canadian land when you're going through customs. Yeah. And they said 70% of Canadians are not going to the U.S. And secondly, and I did end up, after coming back from Boston, I have a mailbox at UPS in Niagara Falls on Military Road, and last Sunday I went across thinking, okay, if they're gonna take me, like they're gonna take me because I hear stories that they're keeping people at the border for hours and hours and for days sometimes, and they're not allowing them back after. So I crossed the border. I used my Nexus. I crossed the border. No Canadian cars going to the U.S.
At all.
And none. And it was easy crossing. And it was all American cars coming back from Canada. And then as I come back into Canada, it's only American cars. So it's crazy what this guy has done to the world. Like it's crazy. Yeah. Now people are not going to be spending money in the U.S. Canadians. So is that going to do anything to the economy here in Canada?
Well, the staycay, right? And a lot of people are looking Europe, right? Well, you see California is trying to lure Canadians and saying we're sorry, and I think they launched a lawsuit against the federal government for doing this to Canada. Like there is all kinds of things, but yeah, it's going to be interesting times. Like I don't know, like are we going to see cottage rentals? Are we going to see Airbnb and that kind of stuff? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
We got to talk about this. One of these stories. I don't know if you guys followed this, but the Airbnb thing. When you go from conventional to Airbnb and then you go back again to there's capital gains. It's deemed disposition.
Oh,
so when you go from short term. Yeah, when you go from short-term rental to long-term rental, it's deemed disposition, and there's an HST implication. So, have you ever heard of that, Brian? There's that just passed in the fall.
Oh my God, they're really smokes! Wow.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to talk about that in a future one of these sessions because people aren't realizing that whole thing, right?
When you change over your house, it's a short-term rental, Airbnb, and then you go to a long-term rental. That is a sale of the asset, and they're triggering a capital gain on that.
Yeah, it's called it because you've changed class, right? So
you're talking about from what the value was at the time that you stopped to the value it is now. There'll be HST on that difference
on the lift.
Yeah,
on the lift.
Yeah. So
if there is a lift, if there is a lift.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting, but that's where they catch you, right? So at the end of the day. When you go from Airbnb to regular rental, it's deemed disposition on that day, and you will have an HST implication. Okay, now there could be some capital gains in there too, right? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Right? It could be capital gains. You probably there's a twofold thing. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And when you go back, I think when people go back, like if people go from conventional to Airbnb, that's where you're going to probably see that capital gains thing more so going the other way, right? So so it's going to be it's deemed disposition. It was passed last fall. People are getting letters like that already. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Crazy.
That's going to force people to sell, in my opinion. It's going to make them get out of the market instead of change it. They're going to end up getting rid of that asset likely.
But then when you sell your house, your residential home that was Airbnb'd all those years, and Airbnb gave all the data, all the information for all the addresses to CRA.
They had no choice.
So when you go to Yeah, so now when you go to sell that product, that single detached you were Airbnb, then what happens is you've got that implication of HST.
Wow.
So yeah, so you gotta, so like you said, you can't dump it. Like you gotta be careful when you dump it because somebody's gonna have to pay HST when they go to buy that detached home that was Airbnb for so many
But
years.
that was pretty quiet. Wasn't that was quiet? I don't remember reading about that. Was that in the papers, Conrad?
Very quiet. I just we've had some clients telling us about it and things like that. So it's just kind of coming. Yeah.
Wow.
So you got to, the other problem is that there's people are saying, well, I did all this work to make it an Airbnb. Can I write off all that HST on all that work I did to make it an Airbnb? And they said, sorry. Going forward, you can, but not, you can't go backwards now. Like they said, that doesn't count.
Wow. See,
Wow.
Yeah.
you can't win with CRA. That's for sure. You can't win.
No, they got you
Yeah.
coming and
Oh,
going.
yeah.
There's too much sharing of data right now. Too
Yeah.
much data sharing,
Yeah.
right?
And,
So yeah.
and they're going after. They want dollars. They're trying to get as much as they can. So
Yeah, so all these cottage rentals, they got to watch out, man. That's going to be huge. Yeah.
Well, they're all getting licensed now. I know ours up north got licensed now, so you have to go through a whole process for getting it licensed in order to do the short-term rental. That's
is that right? Would you have to pay like $500 a year for that, Brian?
$500. It's around that too. You have to get a survey done. You have to make sure it's compliant. You know, I think it's a lot of good things to make sure that it's a safe place, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hoops to jump through now.
But when you sell it, Brian, what about HST when you sell it?
I don't think there is because it's still a
I'm
residential
never selling
cottage.
it, Conrad. I'm never
Yeah,
selling it.
there
Never
is.
selling
That's
it.
always been there. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
you collect HST, don't you, Brian?
But it's also in a corporation as well too.
Yeah, so yeah. But then you have to have the buyer has to have a corp.
You know what? I find that keeping assets for a long period
His
of time,
daughter's going to sell it. His daughter's going
I
to
always
sell it.
subscribe to the Warren Buffett method. Buy and hold forever. Just buy it and hold.
I believe that. I believe that. That's it. That's it.
And if Lila doesn't like it, too bad. That's where she's going on vacation. So.
But we're real estate. We make money when people buy and sell. Don't be giving that
That's
advice.
right. That's right. That's right.
Okay, cut that out of the call.
That's it. We're gonna cut that segment. We like to sell. We like to buy and sell. No holding.
Yeah.
No holding.
Yeah,
That's
no.
it. That's it.
No.
Guys, listen, I appreciate it and thank you. And if you're listening, you can listen to more. Go on YouTube. You'll find us there. Like us, and you'll find us. Go to YouTube. Guys, thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.